the cast of The Apprentice is running the world. Trump, the daughter, Omarosa, they run the world, man. Yo, man, this crazy.
It wasn't just another stand-up. It was a public destruction, after which even a self-assured Donald Trump couldn't hide his rage. Chris Rock, the legendary comedian known for his merciless jokes, lashed out at the former president with such force that even Melania, who has maintained an icy calm for years, couldn't take it. That evening was the moment when Trump's familiar image of an indestructible, narcissistic leader cracked before the eyes of millions. What did Rock say that sent Trump into a frenzy? How did Melania react to it? And why has this scandal become one of the most talked about events of the week?
Trump is not playing, man. That's right. This time is totally different. He's working with the #1 African-American in the world, the richest African-American in the world, Elon Musk. That's right, he is African-American. Elon got more kids than the Cleveland Browns.
We'll break down every sharp joke, every barbed phrase that turned Chris Rock's performance into a grand reveal. It wasn't just entertainment, it was a masterclass in how one performance can wipe a carefully constructed image into dust. Trump has always tried to appear strong, unwavering, confident. But this time, his reaction showed something very different. Network insiders claim that after Rock's performance, Trump flew into a rage, shouted at his aides, and even threatened legal action. And Melania, she just couldn't take it.
I'm playing. They got Elon. They're gonna put him on a rocket ship. We call it Space Max. Oh yeah. J-Lo's gonna marry Ben again, just so she can stay in the country.
What's behind this tantrum? Could it be that Rock has hit Trump's biggest sore spot, his ego? Or perhaps the comedian has finally voiced what many have been guessing but afraid to say out loud? No wonder the internet literally exploded after this speech. Memes, jokes, discussions, social networks have not seen such a reaction for a long time. After all, Chris Rock didn't just make fun of Trump, he opened a Pandora's box that can't be closed. But what's most interesting is Melania's own reaction. Always reserved, always aloof, she showed emotion for the first time. What was it that hurt the former First Lady so badly? Was it an admission that her life in marriage to Trump is a never-ending game of publicity? Or was it the last straw in a series of humiliations? Perhaps this particular performance will be the beginning of the end of their union. So what really happened on this show? Why was this night the most painful blow to Trump's reputation? What are the implications for his family, his career, and his future? We'll take this moment apart piece by piece, showing what was really behind the jokes and why Chris Rock did in just a few minutes what no journalist or politician has ever been able to do. Chris Rock walked on stage, took the microphone, looked into the audience, and, after a brief pause, began to speak. This was not just another comedy program, this was a performance that was going to rock the world. The audience laughed and clapped, but no one knew yet that these very few minutes would be the cause of one of Donald Trump's most discussed tantrums in recent years. Trump himself, while at his Mar-a-Lago estate, did not expect his wife's name to suddenly be the center of attention, and in such a derogatory context.
Melania Trump, the former First Lady, on stage with him. Oh, there she is. And an embrace, the patch on his ear. The two back together again in the public eye. This is an image we have not seen on the campaign trail so far. A big night for the former First Lady, too, deciding this would be the night that she would come forward in supporting her husband as he tries to return to the White House. There was a lot going into this.
At first, Rock went through the classics, his bad business decisions, his bankruptcies, his failure as a billionaire. But that was just a warm-up, a light warm-up before the main punch. The real hook came when Rock talked about Melania Trump. No one expected the comedian to be so bold, but he was on fire. He began by describing her life as the longest, unfunniest sitcom in history, where the main character dreams of escaping, but each season is renewed by producers against her will. The laughter in the audience grew louder and louder, but Rock continued. He stated that if body language could file official documents, Melania would have gotten divorced long ago. These words were said with such certainty that even those who never doubted the strength of their marriage hesitated. But the real blow to Trump's ego came when Rock hinted that their union was not held together by love, but by carefully worded contracts. Do you know why Melania is still with him? It's not love, right? It's a clause in the contract. It clearly states that she's obligated to stay by his side until 2025 or until his possible second term as president expires. People in the audience laughed, realizing that even if it was fiction, it sounded too plausible not to raise doubts. Meanwhile, at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump was, according to his inner circle, out of his mind. According to insider reports, he yelled at the staff, demanding they turn off the TV, but at the same time kept watching. No one dared tell him that the moment had already gone viral on social media, with video of Rock's performance racking up millions of views every minute. Meanwhile, Rock went on. He recalled the most bizarre moments of Trump's presidency. We're talking about the man who tried to buy Greenland like it was an item on sale at Walmart, about the man who suggested treating viruses with bleach, and Melania watched it all and stayed by his side. Isn't that the most impressive excerpt in history? But one moment was a turning point. Rock looked out into the audience, paused and said, "Do you know what Trump said to Melania on their wedding night? This is the biggest, most amazing contract in the history of contracts." At this point, the laughter in the hall was so loud that hardly anyone could hear the next line. It was, however, the most painful. Let's be honest, if she had a choice, she would have changed her last name back a long time ago. Or maybe her first name as well. Those words are rumored to be the final straw for Melania. Insiders claim that she was really angry. According to one version, after watching Rock's performance, she left the room in anger without saying a word and later demanded to cancel several joint events with her husband. Moreover, according to sources close to Trump's entourage, after this scandal, he began to get nervous about a possible breakup with his wife. And the internet's reaction? It was instantaneous. Memes with the hashtag #FreeMelania started popping up on social media, discussing how much more she could take. Some recalled her gestures in public, the moments when she jerked her hand away from Trump, when her face remained still even in the most solemn moments. It all suddenly took on new meaning. Was the marriage to Trump really as Rock described it?
Everybody's worried. Everybody's worried. I mean, we got Luigi. We got Luigi, you know, and that's good. I really feel sorry for the family. I mean, everybody's fixated on how good looking this guy looks. If he looked like Jonah Hill, no one would care. They'd already given him a chair already. Be dead, okay?
Naturally, Trump couldn't let that go unanswered. He tried to wrap things up in a joke, stating in his Truth Social that Chris Rock is not funny, has never been funny, and in fact, his career is over. However, this outburst seemed so weak that even his supporters were in no hurry to back it up, especially since Rock's performance was unstoppable. It went viral on all platforms, was broken down into quotes and phrases, and memes with Trump and Melania started gaining millions of likes. It wasn't just another show, it was a moment when Trump's familiar image was shaken in a way it had never been shaken before. Even his most loyal supporters began to question, and his opponents got a reason for new ridicule. Most importantly, the speech gave Melania another chance to show the world that she has long been mentally not where she is used to being. Perhaps for her, it was a signal that it was time to act. Perhaps for Trump, it was a realization that his personal life is no longer behind the scenes. But one thing is certain, this night will go down in history. Chris Rock did something that even the bravest journalists didn't dare to do. He didn't just make a joke, he ripped off the mask, and the consequences of this blow will be discussed for a long time to come. After Chris Rock's speech, the world froze in anticipation of Donald Trump's reaction. He, who for decades built the image of an indestructible leader, a man who is always in control, found himself in a position he hasn't had to be in for a very long time, an object of ridicule that can't simply be ignored. Usually Trump is quick to respond to criticism, be it from politicians, journalists, or actors, but this time it was different. Initial reports from his inner circle said that he became enraged while the speech was still being broadcast. He first demanded that someone turn off the TV, then started yelling that Rock was never funny, and then, according to insiders, tried to call his lawyer demanding that he deal with it. But even the most loyal people on his staff realized that this wasn't about legal threats. This moment was already recorded in history. It went viral on social media faster than any press release could fix anything. The first attempts at a response were predictable. In his Truth Social, Trump called the performance insulting and Chris Rock himself a loser that no one watches. However, as many users noted, those words didn't carry the energy that used to characterize his angry tirades. It seemed like he wasn't just angry, he was confused. Inside sources said his closest advisors convinced him not to escalate the conflict, not to respond too sharply, lest he draw even more attention. But Trump is Trump, and after a few hours he couldn't stand it, returning to the topic again. In a new publication, he already called Rock an unprincipled clown, said that Melania is laughing at these stupid jokes, and that the whole story is just another attack by liberal elites. This time, however, the situation developed under a different scenario. Usually after such outbursts, Trump received a wave of support from his supporters, but now even among them there was doubt. In the comments under his post began to appear not only the standard slogans about fake news, but also questions: why is he so angry if it's just a joke? Or why is he speaking for Melania again? Can't she answer for herself? That was the most vulnerable point in his response. He was once again trying to speak for his wife, while she herself made no statement. Against this backdrop, the rumors surrounding Melania's own reaction only intensified. Journalists immediately recalled her rare but eloquent moments when she publicly expressed dissatisfaction with her situation, refusals to take photos together, sharp movements with which she avoided her husband's touch, strange comments in interviews. Now it all took on a new meaning. Rumors began to circulate that after Rock's performance they had a serious scandal. Allegedly that same evening, Melania refused to participate in several events she was supposed to attend with Trump, and even retreated to her part of the house, forbidden to approach her without warning. Some insiders claimed that she had considered making a separate statement, but was strongly advised to refrain. There has been media speculation that this incident could be a turning point in their marriage. Of course, rumors of a possible divorce have been around for a long time, especially after Trump's departure from the White House, but so far they have remained at the level of speculation. This time around, however, even some sources close to the family have begun to say that Melania is tired. One report, citing an unnamed family acquaintance, claimed that she no longer wants to be a part of this spectacle. And if earlier such statements were perceived as journalistic speculation, now the situation looked more serious. Meanwhile, the public continued to fan the scandal. A huge number of jokes and memes appeared on social networks, many of which portrayed Melania as a prisoner about to escape. Some began to recall moments from the past when she showed clear irritation towards her husband. One of the most popular posts on Twitter, now X, was a video clip of her repeatedly avoiding Trump's touch during official events. The video was accompanied by the caption, "I think Chris Rock just said out loud what everyone saw coming a long time ago." The effect of the speech continued to build, and Trump, as always, couldn't stay away. Shortly after the initial outbursts of discussion, he decided to go on the counterattack. On the air of a TV station friendly to him, he said that Chris Rock is just an embittered left-wing comedian who lost his popularity long ago, and his jokes are nothing but part of a big conspiracy to discredit real patriots. He also added that Melania admires him and is always supportive, but neither she herself nor her representatives have confirmed anything of the sort. Moreover, according to some sources, it was after these words that Melania finally got angry and refused to accompany her husband to one of the nearest events. But the most high-profile episode was the sudden reaction of Trump's supporters. Whereas previously they had unequivocally defended him against any attacks, now those who urged Trump to simply move on and not blow the scandal began to appear among them. Some ultra-conservative bloggers even declared that jokes are jokes are jokes, and that the president should be above it. This was a signal. For the first time in a long time, a portion of his audience did not support him in a conflict. This whole situation showed that times have changed. Whereas in the past Trump could simply ignore such blows, now even a comedic performance can call into question his image in the eyes of the public. He is used to managing his reputation, suppressing any ridicule through aggression and attacks. But now this mechanism has failed. And what is the worst for him? This scandal turned out to be not just about himself, but about his family. For the first time in a long time, the public's attention shifted to Melania, and it was no longer him dictating the narrative. The question was what happens next. Would Trump put this performance behind him, hoping people would forget? Or will he try to drag everyone back into the conflict, risking further damage to his reputation? One thing is certain, Chris Rock didn't just make a joke, he set a precedent that couldn't be ignored. And now Trump was left with only two options: accept it or continue to fight what had already become a viral phenomenon. When the wave of hype surrounding Chris Rock's performance was just beginning to gain momentum, no one envisioned how deeply it would penetrate the political and public space. Usually such scandals live for a few days, at worst a couple weeks, but this case was special. It did not just hit Donald Trump's ego, but also opened up the cracks that had long been hidden behind the facade of his image. The main difference between this scandal and all the previous ones was that now not only his words and actions, but also the relationships within his family came to the fore. The public is used to the fact that Trump is constantly at the center of scandals, whether it is his statements about the election, legal proceedings, or another scandal with former employees. But now viewers have been introduced to another side, the dynamics of his marriage, which has never been so closely scrutinized. For years, Melania Trump remained an enigma to the public. She rarely gave interviews, barely commented on her husband's actions, and generally seemed detached from all of his political activities. During his presidency, she performed protocol duties, but unlike her predecessors, never tried to actively participate in public life. While Michelle Obama launched social initiatives and Laura Bush was involved in education, Melania seemed to simply fulfill the role out of necessity. Her only attempt to make a name for herself was her Be Best campaign against online bullying, but even that quickly became an object of ridicule, given that her own husband was one of the internet's most notorious trolls.
Because you think a lot of parents would, encourage their children's kind of high aspirations.
Yes.
But like you told your mom,
When I was a kid, before I wanted to be a comedian, my dream was to be the president of the United States. It's the only real job I ever wanted, okay? Only time I wanted an office. I wanted to be the president of the United States. And I told my mother, and she's like,
Now that Chris Rock's jokes have uncovered not only political but also personal aspects of Trump's life, the reaction from his inner circle has been surprisingly chaotic. Usually, his team always had a pre-prepared plan of action. They knew how to play off certain scandals, how to shift attention to other topics, how to use the media noise in their favor. But this time, everything was different. Journalists tried to get official comments from Trump's press secretary, but there was no response. And the most curious thing was that Melania herself did not make a single statement. In a normal situation, she would, albeit formally, but supported her husband, but this time she remained silent. Against the background of the growing scandal in the press began to appear new insider information. Allegedly in close circles, Trump was obsessed with the idea of publicly refuting all the jokes of Chris Rock. He wanted to arrange a response interview where he would try to make himself look like a victim of unfair bullying, but his advisors talked him out of the idea, realizing that any additional reaction would only increase the effect. Instead, the team decided to bet on a distraction. He was to appear at several events in the coming days, making high-profile statements on completely different issues. However, this plan backfired. Wherever he traveled, reporters kept asking the same question: how did he feel about Chris Rock's performance? In public, Trump tried to keep his composure, but in private conversations, his irritation was rumored to be growing by the day. But the most unpleasant blow to him was the reaction from supporters. Unlike the usual cases when his base instantly rose to his defense, this time many saw no reason to be outraged. On social media they wrote, "So what, it's just jokes, everyone makes fun of politicians, Trump is no exception," or even "he better get down to business instead of taking offense at comedians." These comments hit Trump's most vulnerable spot, his need for total loyalty from his audience. If even his fans didn't see this scandal as a threat, does that mean his influence is waning? Meanwhile, rumors continued to circulate online about Melania's own reaction. Some claimed that after watching the show, she asked to have all footage of her removed from the family's official pages. Others said that she started discussing with lawyers possible ways to protect her privacy. Of course, no one could say with certainty how much these rumors correspond to reality, but their appearance spoke volumes. The public no longer perceived her as a passive figure. Now she became the center of attention, a person who is discussed as much as her husband. The scandal took a new turn when it became known that several Hollywood producers began work on projects inspired by the situation. One of the screenwriters even stated in an interview that this story is the perfect material for a satirical movie that will show the absurdity of modern politics. Of course, Trump himself took it as another attack, but there was nothing he could do about it. The key point of this whole story was that now Trump was no longer in control of the narrative. Normally, he was adept at commanding public attention. He knew when to provoke, when to push victimhood, when to go on the offensive. But this time, the situation was unique. Rock's jokes didn't just mock him, they made him the object of jokes on a deeper level. Now, even those who had previously supported him began to see him differently. His usual phrases like fake news, witch hunt, and liberal conspiracy no longer worked. But the most frustrating part was that he never got closure. Usually scandals involving him were quickly replaced by other news stories, but this one was special. People kept discussing it, making memes, quoting Rock jokes. Even people who didn't normally follow politics now knew about the speech. It had become part of popular culture, and there was nothing Trump could do about it. And Melania, she was still silent. But that silence now sounded louder than any words. And if before it was perceived as indifference, now it was a sign that she was up to something.